name's Lynda Gaiao and welcome to this week's edition. Today we are moving into the frequency of trait 10, which is behavior of the self. This particular trait is in the identity and direction function. And when we're thinking about behavior of the self, it is very connected to self-love and being able to fully love and accept oneself. Why behavior? Behavior is linked to survival, and if we do not have the correct behavior, we are not going to survive in this world. So when we're thinking about self-love and loving self-acceptance, there is this truly surrendering to what it means to be you and to love that completely and fully. And this aligns you to the correct behavior and ultimately to surviving on this plane and no longer meeting resistance. There are only 4 love traits in the human design system, and the 10th gate, behavior of self or love of self, is one of those traits. All the other 3 traits are also contained in the identity and direction function. When we are in this space of complete surrender of self and loving of self, we access self-empowerment and empowerment. This particular trait is part of the integration circuitry, and this is all about survival. So what is self-empowerment and empowerment here? When you become a living example of what it means to live as oneself, behave as oneself, be in total acceptance and love of self, ultimately what happens is you become something that empowers others to do the same. So you become this living example of what it is to be somebody totally connected to themselves and loving themselves. And in a way, you give people permission to do the same for themselves. This trait is complex because it connects to 3 other traits in different spaces. So it connects to responding in the now with your energy to what is correct and healthy for you. It also connects to the intuitive knowing in the now, which is linked to survival. And the 3rd place it connects to is being able to express oneself or bring something into being through the communication and action function. So there's 3 ways that this 10th trait of behavior or love of self is able to be connected within the human design system. And when we're thinking about being able to connect to that, loving what is unique about yourself, because that is when we get true self-acceptance, when we can see our uniqueness and we can live it and be it. It's not about becoming anything, it's about being what you already are. And as you go on the journey of understanding your uniqueness, you get to embrace this more and more and just be a living example of it. There is an element of surrender that comes in here, surrendering to your uniqueness and to what you are. When we're living in the world of the mind, there is this constant comparison or judgment of ourselves against something else and measuring. How do we measure up against something else? But if you're going to come to a place of true love and self-acceptance, there is this embracing of your uniqueness, this surrendering to your uniqueness. And in that space, there is no measurement, there is no judgment, there is just being you. This week, we all have access to this energy of trait 10 of behavior of self or love of self, and with that comes this awareness of the correct behavior for you, no matter where you are or who you're with. One if one is living through the not self or through the shadow, there can be this tendency to shift your behavior and constantly morph and change who you are around different people. But when we have trait 10 active, there is this deep knowing of what is the correct behavior for yourself, no matter who you're with or you're around. And at the same time, there is this recognition of what the correct behavior is of others. And if they seem to be behaving in dissonance to what that correct behavior is, this can feel actually quite uncomfortable. And so it's going to be an interesting thing for you to watch this week as you're in this energy, is how much awareness do you have of behavior in the moment and this alignment to correct behavior or not. You see, ultimately, when we are thinking about survival as a human or as a species, if we do not have the correct behavior, we cannot survive. And without awareness in the now of that correct behavior, we won't survive either. So it's very linked, this trait, to the correctness of behavior, to survival in the now, and to this loving acceptance, this surrendering into the uniqueness of who you are. In the human design system, we have role gates, which, whether you have the trait in your design or not, have an influence on all of us. And the 10th gate provides the roles for behavior across the entire system. There are 6 different role traits within this particular, or more specifically, there are 6 behavior roles within this trait. And there is, the foundation of what behavior is, the withdrawal and being called out for specific behaviors. There is the discovering and pioneering of figuring out what is the correct behavior or not. There is the connection to opportunities and networks and knowing what behavior brings those opportunities and networks to you. There is the providing of practical solutions for aligned behavior, and if those are not delivered, one is burned at the stake. And then ultimately the final expression of it is the role model. Can you be a role model of perfected form, of perfected behavior, of ultimate survival in the now, and the complete loving acceptance, surrendering to the uniqueness of oneself. When we think about this trait in a business context, number 1, the correct behavior in a business context aligned with the correct behavior of our clients is a way for us to connect to our clients on a much deeper level, where people feel like they're in the right place at the right time, doing the right things with the right people. And if you have the correct behavior, so when you are bringing people on board into your environment, is there kind of this culture of behavior within your organization, and are people aligned to that? Because when there is resonance and alignment with the behavior, and that's being expressed outwards into the world, the survival of the business and the connection between what you are offering and what your clients are looking for just becomes more and more aligned. When we think about the aspect of self-love or uniqueness, and we are looking at that in terms of a business context, one often speaks about the unique selling proposition within a business context, and the uniqueness of a business is essential. What makes you unique? Are you aligned to that uniqueness? Do you stand for it 100%? Are you finding yourself in the judgment, comparison and measurement game, where you are comparing yourself to others rather than just owning your uniqueness in the marketplace? And there's a strength that can come from a business that really owns that uniqueness and is able to deliver that with the correct behavior. And as we talked about earlier on, this is all about survival. And this is going to be one of those things that is going to bring not only survival, but thriving in your business environment. So this week, what I'd encourage you to pay attention to is, what behavior are you noticing? Your own behavior and the behavior of others, or the behavior of the world around you. And does that behavior lead to resistance, or is there this feeling of free flow and connection when you are behaving correctly? Are you able to surrender into fully accepting your uniqueness, to this full loving self-acceptance, or are you resisting that? And then looking at the environments that you're in and just noticing the alignment to those places that you're in as well. I hope that you enjoyed this week of self-love, connecting to self, connecting to the correct behavior of self, so that you can be living as aligned to your perfected form. Each week I release a video as the transits change, and so if you want to stay updated of when that happens, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions or any comments about this particular trait, please pop them in the comments below. And until next week, I hope you have a great one. Bye for now.